I'm Carol Williams, and you're listening to Immigrant Entrepreneurs Making It Happen. In this podcast, we're chatting with immigrant entrepreneurs and peeling back the layers to discover how their unique perspectives influence their business decisions. So kick back, relax, and let's dive in. Hey, everybody. I wanted to welcome everybody back to another episode of Immigrant Entrepreneurs Making It Happen. And today I have a friend and colleague who will be my guest today. I'm super excited to talk to him. I know him. We work together. We refer business back and forth, but I've never actually sat down with him and dug into his beliefs on being an immigrant to this country, as well as what it's like to run his own law firm. So I'd like to introduce y'all to Derek Fahey. He is a patent attorney and one of the managing partners of the Plus IP firm. It's an intellectual property law firm with offices throughout Florida and New York. The Plus IP firm specializes in protecting and monetizing software, electrical, medical, cannabis, and mechanical related inventions. Derek has an incredible background. He has an engineering background, and before law school, he worked in the oil and gas industry for Schlumberger. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right.
Close. Schlumberger.
Schlumberger. I knew it. I was so wrong, though. I was so close. So he was there both in the U.S. and internationally. Derek has worked as an engineering project manager for Next Era Energy, where he was responsible for designing electrical infrastructure. Derek resides with his family in Florida, and his passion is helping people, businesses, and inventors positively impact the lives of others. Derek, thank you so much for being on Immigrant Entrepreneurs Making It Happen. I think you define our title. So I'm super excited to dive in today. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. So we were just talking, before I hit record, and you said that you didn't know that I was an immigrant.
Yeah.
And I was laughing and I was like, well, I'm not.
Yeah. So you're about to tell me why you became an immigration lawyer. And I said, you know what, let's do this on the podcast.
Yeah.
So let's start off with you.
So we'll start with me, but I definitely want our listeners to hear the balance of this about you. But so I am not an immigrant. I know a lot of immigration lawyers are, but I am not. I fell in love with immigration law when I was in law school. I took one class and I was overseas in Mexico when I took that class. And I quite literally fell in love with everything about it. It married everything that I loved. It married people, it married culture, it married the law, obviously, because I was in law school. I loved travel prior to that. My parents were super, super intentional about exposing my brother and I to other cultures and other people that weren't like us. My first overseas trip was to Canada with my family. And then I spent a semester in Spain when I was an undergrad. So for me, being overseas in Mexico and taking my very first immigration class just seemed right. And I literally fell in love and I've been doing immigration ever since. So yeah, but I'm not an immigrant. So I was born and raised in Connecticut. So
Connecticut could be the furthest place from immigration I could think about.
I literally fell in love with it and I've been doing it ever since. So I'm excited. But tell me about yourself. Tell me about your background. How did you wind up in the States?
Great question. So I moved with my family, my parents. I'm originally from Trinidad. I was born in Trinidad, myself and my 3 siblings, so 4 kids. And my parents moved to the United States to Florida, South Florida, when I was 11 years old. And they came here for a couple of different reasons. And that's how we ended up here. I have some relatives here as well. And in South Florida, there is a fairly large Caribbean community.
Sure.
So that was an easy jump off and a lot of fun stories coming from that. Yeah.
What was it like to be 11? I mean, had you visited the US before, or was this just a completely unknown place for you at 11 years old?
Yeah, so I knew it a little bit. I've been here to Disney World. I've been
Okay.
to visit some relatives because we had some relatives living here.
Okay.
But going to school, there's so many things that I remember at 11 still that I was just thinking to myself, like, wow, that is so different, especially in school.
Hmm.
So in Trinidad, you kind of operate under the English or the British system. It's an English colony.
Right.
And then coming to the US, very different. In Trinidad, there's no frills. You stand up when the teacher walks in the classroom.
Ooh.
There's not a lot of, when I was going to school, I don't remember any like, fun, pretty things on the board on like there's no, there's not a lot of frills. And in the US it was exactly the opposite. You didn't have to stand up, you didn't have a uniform. So it's totally different. When I moved here, people talk different
Hmm.
dialect of English, didn't have a Caribbean accent. So just totally different. And, I think my sisters had it harder. My sisters are older than me, so they moved here. One was freshman in high school, and then
Ooh.
one was middle school. So, and Leah.
Hmm.
But I think they have probably had a little harder than I did because I wasn't in middle school and high school, but everything was different. Sports were different, everything was different. How you play recess, what you did in recess. There's, just so many things were different. But I think that's a great age if you're going to immigrate to the US. That's actually a good age. So I got lucky.
Nice. Nice. And do you still have family back in Trinidad?
We do. I do have family in Trinidad. So I have, my mom has her sister who lives there, and then all my first cousins live there from my mom's side, and my dad has some relatives there. So we do have family. I have friends there that live in Trinidad still. So we go back. I haven't been back since COVID, but
Okay.
is on my list to go back. Yeah.
Nice. Now, when you think about your journey to being an entrepreneur, and specifically, I guess, to being a law firm owner and being a lawyer in general, because
Mm-hmm.
being a lawyer is your second career.
Mm-hmm.
Does being an 11-year-old moving to a different country, did that shape that journey for you? Does it shape how you think about being an entrepreneur?
Yes. I think coming from Trinidad, we just had the mentality that, well, at least my family did. And I think a lot of immigrants do, especially first generation immigrants like myself. I can only speak for me because my personal experience, but the, what we just kind of knew, I don't think it was said much, but, my family, my parents were at the time, my dad was, I think my dad was 40. So
Mhm.
he left his entire family with four kids to go to a different country to seek a better life. So we just had this philosophy of we were going to make it happen just because we wanted to almost do right by them because of all the sacrifices that they made. And I think that even at that young age, I just knew that, I wasn't going to like do bad in school. I was going to try my best just because my parents gave us so much. And I think of it now, and even back then, I kind of knew that
Mhm.
that was how we were going to kind of make it through whatever we're going to be going through is just education. So for me, the ability to work hard and to persevere and just doing your best and not giving up, I think really was instilled in me from such a young age. And I think that has actually helped my entrepreneurial kind of journey, I guess you could probably say.
Nice. I like that. Now, what does the Plus IP firm do?
Sure. So the Plus IP firm is an intellectual property law firm. So we help clients acquire intellectual property, which is patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, so they can monetize it. Kind of why I do what I do. I love math and science. I love helping others. And, as an IP attorney, we deal a lot with very technical things. And so, as an IP attorney, we basically decipher complex things or
Mhm.
inventions and help people protect those inventions through patents, trademarks, copyrights, etc. And but why I do what I do? I love helping people, and I love helping others create assets. And that's what we do. How we do it, we help people acquire intellectual property rights with patents, trademarks, and copyrights, and we help people monetize their inventions. Yeah.
Give me an example of, if you would, a patent, a copyright, and a trademark for people that hear the phrase intellectual property, but they're not quite sure what the difference is. Because there's a very specialized niche in order to be a patent attorney. I thought, I'm not obviously a patent attorney, but like tell us what that is so that people really understand.
Sure. So, well, first off, to become a patent attorney, you have to have a science or mathematics background. So unless you have an engineering degree or a biology degree, you can't sit to become to actually become a patent attorney. So you actually have to have a special background to do that. That's the first thing. And then here's some examples. So an example of a copyright would be when you write a book, you actually can get a registered copyright for the book, like the words in the book, so that how if someone were to copy that book or plagiarize that book, you would actually be able to, stop them from doing that, and also collecting monetary damages if that's what you so choose. An example of a trademark is a source identifier. So, for example, our firm's name is the Plus IP firm. That's our brand, and that's protected with trademark law. A lot of times you'll see people, protecting their brands on Amazon, on e-commerce, because the last thing brand owners want to do is spend a lot of money branding and advertising, whether it's e-commerce or in person, and then have somebody else benefit off of their name. So branding, trademarks protects branding, and then patents. So patents protect functional features of a particular, device. So for example, how something operates, the functional features of something can be protected with patents. And on the same side, on the design, a design patent protects ornamental features of a particular design. So for example, these sunglasses here, the shape of the sunglasses could be protected with design patents.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, you learn something every day.
There you go.
Like legit, as many times as you and I talk, I would have never thought that something as to me, a consumer, so simple as the shape of something or the shape of a pair of sunglasses, could be considered intellectual property.
100%. Another good example of design patents is your iPhone, right? Your iPhone, you can actually, there's a judgment for, I think it's like $500 million when Samsung copied the iPhone's look and feel. They were able to get a huge judgment for design patent infringement. And the kind of test was, before the iPhone, most phones had buttons. And in fact, I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, like who would ever have a phone without buttons? I'm never going to have an iPhone, right? Mm-hmm. But because it was so revolutionary, the iPhone was so revolutionary, and they had their patents covering the phone, even though Samsung made small adjustments to the design, because they copied the actual design of having a phone with no buttons as their design patent covered, they're able to get this huge judgment against Samsung because of what the phone looked like. So just because, design patents are really powerful as well.
Oh, neat. Okay. So tell me a little bit about what actually inspired you, what initially inspired you to become an entrepreneur, you've graduated school, you're an engineer, then you decide to go to law school.
Yep.
Then what made you say, I want to start my own firm. I want my own thing in this world?
It was a bit of being in the right place at the right time. And also, quite honestly, me just not want to look for another job, quite honestly. So I was an engineer for a few years, and I am the kind of person that doesn't like working for the man, so to speak, and I was working for these huge corporations. It was okay. I liked it, but I just didn't feel like I had an impact on what I was doing. It just didn't have that much impact. That was my impression. Mm-hmm. People didn't listen to what I had to say, and so I went to law school hoping to study intellectual property law. And like you, I realized that it was awesome. Like you realize your immigration, you loved it. And that's what you wanted to do. Once I started intellectual property law and studying it, I thought like that was the coolest. That was what I wanted to do. I just was like, thank God I like it, because I quit my career to do this. So I was super happy about that. I've worked for a couple firms, one which I loved working for. And then I went to another firm that I really did not like working for. Terrible, toxic work environment. So I basically left that firm, and I did not want to work. I thought to myself, I don't feel like, doing this whole job hunt thing all over again. I'm going to make this happen. I want to be a patent attorney. That's it. I'm just going to work my butt off, and I'm going to make it happen. And I had no clients. And I just did a series of different things to make it happen so that could happen. But, there were some times there it was rough in the beginning. I'm 10 plus years now with my firm, or our firm. So, but yeah, it was just pure determination, a little bit of luck, a little bit of being, things happening a certain way, and me just saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it.
Did you find during that process that you had mentors along the way?
Yes, definitely. My business partner, I think, was a big mentor for me on the legal side. He helped me a lot on the legal side, just being able to, with the practice of law. And on the business side, I just devoured any sort of, business book, positive thinking book that I could just keep my head from just not exploding about what was I thinking about. Because as an entrepreneur, many times, people tell you can't do it. You ask 10 people in enormous law firms, they'll tell you you're crazy. And then you ask 10 people in small law firms, and they'll say it's the best thing you'll ever do. Go ahead and do it.
That is so true.
The people who haven't done it say it's impossible, and the people who are doing it say it's the best thing you'll ever do in your entire life. So anybody who asks me about what they want to do, if they should start their own firm, and my answer is do it. It will be the best thing you ever do, but it will not be easy.
Right. 110% agree with that. 110% agree. I have buried myself for years in business books as well, because it is a source of mindset, right? It keeps you moving forward. It makes it, for me anyway, it makes the hard days a little bit less hard. But yeah.
Yeah. What about you? When you started your own firm, what was the reason? I mean, I know you worked in the IRS. I know you worked in immigration services a little bit, but why Carol Williams Immigration?
I wanted to control my own career. I had been in big law, and I met so many amazing people, had honestly a good experience in big law, but I couldn't take the types of cases that I fully wanted. And I wanted to continue to help business owners, but I wanted to help smaller business owners that I thought could really benefit from somebody with big law experience without the big law price tag necessarily. But I also really wanted to help families. And I think when most people think about immigration, they don't think about corporate immigration, which is what I do quite a bit of in my practice. I think most people think about their families and people coming up through the southern border, and they think about asylum. And so I wanted to be able to help families stay together. And that doesn't really work in a big law setting, quite honestly. Just the way that big law is set up, that doesn't work in a big law firm. But I figured I could create what I wanted, right? I could create what I wanted. So I did that. And now I help families, I help business owners, and it is the hardest thing I've ever done, but 110% the most rewarding.
Yeah. That's great.
So I feel you on that one. I totally feel you. Um, how or have you, maybe you haven't, I don't know, have you found ways that you find yourself leveraging your cultural connection back to Trinidad in your current firm?
I think a little bit. I will say I'll go back to the fact I definitely will say I connect more with people from different cultures because I'm from a different culture, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if there's someone from Trinidad, instant connection, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But I love listening to dialect sounds kind of kooky, but growing up in Trinidad and moving to America, I could tell you which person is Jamaican, which person's from
Okay.
Bahamas. You can kind of tell dialects. So that's something if I hear somebody from the Midwest, I'll ask what state they're from. It's something this really sparks my curiosity. So I use that just to make a mutual connection. But I think more on on a different note, I also just go back to having just knowing that I was given this amazing opportunity and that I'm going to work really hard for whoever I work for. I may work more than I get paid to do, but I want to do my best, and I want to advocate and fight for my clients. And I just think that mentality of wanting to do your best every single day is something that I was taught, and quite frankly, I think a lot of immigrants to this country who have a very similar experience still tell you the same thing. They see the opportunity that they're afforded,
Mm-hmm.
and they know how amazing this country is, and they just have something in them that wants that is willing to work hard. I'm willing to work hard for clients, and I think that's not it's not exclusive to immigrants, but I do think that's a common thread a lot of immigrants will have is
Yeah.
that, hey, you know what, this is an amazing country we live in, and we have an opportunity, and we're going to make it. And I think that's something that I really lean on every single day.
Yeah. I hear that a lot from my clients.
Really?
I hear that a lot from my clients who they themselves are business owners. They want to give back. They want to help other people, and they hustle. They are inspiring to me as a fellow business owner, but the hustle and the drive is incredible to watch. When someone only is approved for a year and they have to come in here and grow that business, for a year, and then hire other people. They are so excited when they make that first hire. They call me. They're like, "Oh, we just hired somebody," or, they call me when they meet certain milestones that they themselves have set for their business. And always one of those milestones is the number of people that they've helped, the number of
Really?
services that they've been able to provide to other people, and it is inspiring on a daily basis. So I hear that a lot from my
That's really
clients.
cool.
It's very interesting, and it just inspires me.
Do you hear a lot from your clients that, hey, this is like the best country in the world?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, similar to what your parents did by moving themselves and four kids to a new country. I have clients that come over as students. So they're maybe 18 or 19. They come. It's the first time they've ever been to the States. They're in college. It is a whole new world. It's a whole new world. It's a place where they've only ever heard of. They haven't had any firsthand experience. And they fight tooth and nail to make it happen and to do well in school, and then to ultimately get a job, and then to get sponsorship. It is a long process. It's a long process. And they are some of the most positive folks that I meet, right? Because they're like, you can't be negative. Like, you can't be negative. Like, oh, it's never going to work, because or else you wouldn't be here, right? Like, so they're incredibly positive, always hardworking. And and I'll say to them, this case is complex. They're like, oh, Carol, it's going to work out just fine. And I'm like, okay, and they're like, don't worry so much. I'm like, okay. Like, I literally have one client. He's like, Carol, you worry too much. It'll be fine. And you know what? For him, it always works out. It's always fine.
How long is the average? How long is the average immigration case? I mean, like, I know it's tough to say average, but
Ooh.
like, how long from like the time you put the paperwork in, do you actually like get an examining attorney or an examiner looking at it?
Yeah. So for employment-based cases, you can actually pay the government to work faster. You can pay them to expedite it. If we do that, I hear from them in 15, depending on the type of case, 15 or 30 or 45 calendar days.
Oh wow, that's early.
Yeah, that's really early, but that is only if you want to spend the extra money. If you don't want to spend the extra money, it could take 5 weeks, 5 months. If it's a green card case, I tell people we're going to budget in about 2 years at a minimum. At a minimum, like there's no, like I cannot really get it for you faster than that, and that is like super fast track, no problems, no issues. So it takes a while. Like I work with my clients for several years at a clip.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, I'm like, you're never really done with me.
Yeah. Can you if once you, and I know the cases differ significantly, but if you're applying for a green card, can you actually leave the country and come back, or is it just very fact specific?
In general, you can, sure. We just have to get you travel permission that allows you to come back and forth while your green card's pending. Now, not everyone can do that. But the majority of types of cases that I work on, you absolutely can.
Mm.
Yeah. One of the things I work with my clients closely on is their ability to be able to travel in and out. So like now, like none of my clients are calling me now because we've buttoned up all their ability to travel for the holidays. So yeah, I do a lot of that work in the summer to make sure that we have the approvals by the time they want to travel, usually starting around November.
Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me some of the super highs and some of the maybe not so lows about being a business owner.
I think some of the super highs, are the easy, the wins, when you do when a client, you have a big win for a client, in my world, it's getting a patent in a crowded space, or finding out that this particular patent that they're trying to raise money on is going to work, right? Or they're going to get a patent and now they can get that funding. Those are some of the fun wins. On my side too, as a business owner, some of the fun wins are like when you retain a client, when a client retains you, right? Hey, that's a great client. They retain me. Yes. I remember even when I was first on my own, and still like you retain a big client, it's like, hell yeah, because that goes directly to you and your team's pockets, right? So it's making your family, it's sustaining your family. That's quite honestly, that's a win, winning for the clients and also winning for yourself. And some some lows are, it's, maybe working too much or working on the weekends when, like nobody else is working. People don't realize that, sometimes, at least for me, I'm still in the stage where I'm still the hardest working guy in the office, right? I'm the first person in, the last person to leave a lot of times, not all the time, but many times. But I love what I do, so that's okay. Some of the other lows are, some of the other lows are when it's slow. When it's slow, that could be stressful. Those paychecks still need to get paid. So, but I really try to focus on the fact that the universe will provide if I just keep doing those little actions over and over and over again. I just can focus on what I can control, and then the rest will happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It took me a solid 2 years into business ownership to really, really believe that and to see it happen. Truly. I was just like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then it always works out. Like, it doesn't matter. It always works out. Because it's like you said, it is those incremental, consistent actions. And they always pan out, which is now I worry, and there's certainly anxiety, right? But I don't worry as much as I used to, which feels good, right? I feel like that's growth.
yeah, there's like that tunnel, that light at the end of the tunnel is coming soon, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to your point about, doing the incremental actions, it's so important. Because I love what I do, I find myself having to like I physically can feel myself being like, step away from the desk. Like, you cannot be doing this right now. You can't do a deep dive into this super esoteric sensor. You have to go, you got to step away, take your nerd brain off, and put on like your business cap and start doing what could be better for the business.
Right.
Which I like as well. I'm getting more used to doing that, as opposed to, as my firm grows, as we grow, getting used to doing that. But I still like this. I still like the nerd stuff. That's kind of who I am. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I find myself going down rabbit holes all the time. I'm like, stop.
You're like,
you have team members who you pay to go down this rabbit hole. But I'm like, but it's so cool. I'm like, stop. So, yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I totally get it. So I want to wrap up, but I always wrap up with kind of a similar question. What advice would you give an individual with an immigration background or an immigrant background who wants to start their business in the U.S.? What advice would you give them?
Well, if they're an immigrant, I'd tell them to call you. That's the first thing, because they don't know what, there's a lot of pitfalls that you can get into. So definitely got to button that up. And then if they're coming in and they have the mentality that I think I have, is really, you gotta set the goals. You gotta work hard. It will happen. You just gotta keep on pushing, and, be aware of business risks. There's some things you can be doing beforehand that would minimize your business risks. Case in point, getting set up with the immigration kind of side of things, making sure that everything is kind of buttoned up and you're not going to hire an employee you're not supposed to hire or something like that. That's an example of a business risk. But also, just never give up. If you really love it and you keep doing the little things that will make your business work, just keep doing that. Keep your nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and just never give up.
Awesome. Derek, how can people find you? Do you have a website? Do you have social media handles? How can we find you?
Yes, we're going to give that to you. But my Instagram handle is Derek Fahey, PA, DerekFahey, PA. I think the same thing for TikTok. Our website is www.plusfirm.com. And my YouTube channel, which I post a lot in intellectual property types of subjects. If you Google Derek Fahey ESQ, I think it's Derek Fahey Esquire, but I'll drop that in the chat as well. Awesome. For my, YouTube stuff that we do tons of videos about, like, what's a design patent and stuff like that.
Cool. So for people like me who are like, I didn't know that the design of sunglasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Protected. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Derek. Again, you and I talk often, but we've never really sat down and really I've never sort of dug into who you are as a business owner. We're always talking work or golf, which is always fun. So thank you so much for being on my podcast, Immigrant Entrepreneurs Making It Happen. And I really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Anytime. All right. Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Making It Happen podcast. This is your host, Carol Williams, managing attorney at Williams Immigration, a boutique immigration law firm helping companies and families navigate the U.S. immigration system. To reach me, go to www.clwimmigration.com.